Shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yashai B'Hashem Kodash. Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. January 9th, 2026, year of apostasy, agents, sellouts, and Jacob's trouble. Because we in the beginnings of Jacob's trouble. It's going to get worse out here. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video, Russia Takes the Gloves Off. Russia fires hypersonic missiles hit on Ukraine. There's some Dabu 7. And these are the missiles we strongly believe that they're going to use on the U.S. So this is put up by Dabu 7, fair use, fair use. I'm going to play this, make this short. It's breaking news. You're going to get a lot of breaking news from us. A lot of 2-minute videos, little 10-minute videos, as well as the other videos as well. Get out now. Kiev mayor, I believe that's still Vitaly Klitschko, former heavyweight champion boxer. He was the mayor. Kiev mayor warns residents to flee after Russia's hypersonic missiles hit Ukraine. Now I'm going to let it play, and you're going to see how these missiles hit.
This is Dabu 7, and we have confirmation that the very first Oreshnik hypersonic missile from Russia has been used and launched on Kiev. You can see just how wild looking these missiles are when they come down. You can see how they almost resemble lightning strikes. Look at that.
That's exactly what they look like, lightning. And the scriptures speak about lightning.
Look at that. These things zipping in,
I
destroying.
beheld Satan fall as lightning. So, is that talking about when America gets hit, it's going to look like lightning, actual lightning? Because remember, this is the hypersonic. Did I say supersonic? Hypersonic missile or ICBM missile, which goes faster than the speed of sound.
Anything
I gotta bring that back.
Instant strikes. Looking. These see just how wild looking these missiles are when they come down. You can see how they almost
And Russia is looking at America as, hey, well, they just stealing countries. They killing people. They don't give a fuck. So why should we give a fuck? That's why in Isaiah chapter 13, the Medes is not going to give a fuck about. Let me go to that. As a matter of fact, so you got all these, the NATO nation, the EU nations, Russia, other than China, is mad as hell at Nero, which means they're mad as hell at America because he represents America. It said his hands are going to be feeble when they attack. That's in Jeremiah 50 or 51. I believe it's 50. Give me a second here. Let me do this. What did I say I was going to do? Oh yeah, Isaiah 13. I'll give you the verse in a minute, and I'll read it in a couple of. They already have the missile system. It's a matter of the mark being, I'm looking for the word Medes. Here we go. Medes. Give me a second right here. Okay, Babylon will fall to the Medes. Now I said, if you look at a map and you go to the Levant, Palestine, that land there, the middle, the so-called Middle East, Isaiah is looking towards the land of the Medes. So these missiles were coming from Russia, which he said they were coming from the Medes, because there was nothing behind the Medes. Just go to a map. It said Babylon will fall to the Medes. Behold, I will stir up the Medes or the Russians against them, which shall not regard silver, as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Meaning you can't buy them out. You can't sit down and we're going to make a deal. We're going to send you $1 trillion. So we don't know what's going to happen. We got to wait and see. And the deal's going to fall through. It said their bows, which are the silos, also shall dash the young men to pieces. What young men? The young men, the young woman, the young child, the young baby, the young pregnant woman, the old woman, the middle-aged man, the middle-aged woman. Anybody that's here on this soil that they call America, you will be destroyed. You'll be hit with a hypersonic missile. And I just showed you how the thing works. It looks like lightning coming from the heavens. To men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Look, we got there's millions of babies and infants. There's millions of infants in the United States. There's millions of pregnant women in the United States. There's millions of toddlers in the United States. The Russians are not going to give a fuck because of what the king of Babylon is doing. He's sitting down right now having a meeting about how he took X amount of oil and he said we're going to use this oil for America. You just stole it. You went into a sovereign land, arrested the king of that land, set up another king, the vice president, and then you told her, look, if you got a problem with that, we'll come down there. That's death right there to the open world. So anything that happens now, if any nation comes against America, well, they got a reason to. It said these people are thieves. It said their bows shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. Well, what about the children? They don't give a fuck about the children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, which is America, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's how the fire came down from heaven. So fire came from heaven. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Give me a second here. Okay, said, but while, let me see, 20th verse. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dealt with in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arab pitch tent, set up a business. You got a lot of Arabs that set up businesses there. Neither shall the shepherd make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. Meaning where their houses were, you're going to have these desert creatures. The owls shall dwell there, and the set trees shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places. And her time is near to come. That's a topic right there. And whose time? Babylon's time. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. If it tarry, wait for it. It shall not tarry. It shall surely come. So let me come back over here. Give me a second. Let me go ahead and find it. Okay, I'm going to play it again. I'll let it play out. Everything's moving fast now. And it's all started in January. I said that the faucet was going to be turned up.
7. And we have confirmation that the very first Oreshnik hypersonic missile from Russia has been used and launched on Kiev. You can see just how wild looking these missiles are when they come down. You can see how they almost resemble lightning strikes. Look at that. Look at that. These things zipping in, destroying anything in an instant. And it's highly unlikely anyone is going to be able to stop them. So now the leadership in Kiev is telling everyone, get out now. Leave. They struck one of these major underground storage facilities. Most of the city is without electric. They're telling a lot of the buildings and people that have buildings that have the power out in them that they should get out and leave, and they should drain the water from the building because of the freezing temps. This is something that we've expected for some time if a peace agreement was not brought to the table. I expect more strikes. Russia can really put it on them from here, and they're not just going to hit the city and not try to surround it or take it. If they take this city, their main city, I mean, this thing's like pretty much done. We're at a point here where Zelensky's getting backed into a corner, and they could do something very crazy, like tactical nuke toward Moscow or something. That's only going to get them nuked for real, like big time. But this is a big move. Putin unleashing his hypersonics. Again, the leadership in Kiev saying, get out now. And I don't know where this is going to go from here. One thing's guaranteed. It'll be an escalation, and it'll probably be a strike back on Moscow from Ukraine here. In what form? We're going to have to wait and see. Join me for the live shows going live on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.
I'm just kind of moving around here. Okay, so this is 2 hours ago. Watch live. Trump meets with oil executives at White House after Venezuela strikes. So these executives are accessories to the crime because he just stole it, and the whole world can see that he stole it. He bogarted his way in there, took the president, arrested him and the president's wife, threatened the new president, and just now they're saying this is our oil. This is some old gangster shit, man. So this changes the attitude of these other world powers like China and Russia. They said, now we know how to deal with these motherfuckers. You know? Hell breaks loose in Minnesota. All hell breaks loose. It was 34 minutes ago as new video surfaced of ICE murder. So I gotta watch that. Watch live. This is Face the Nation. Trump speaks during meeting with oil CEOs about Venezuela. And you see all the faces there, they're Edomites. No Jakes. Because they believe that their kingdom's going to go forever in Psalm 49. Their houses shall continue forever from generation to generation. Merely paraphrasing. Anyway, I said I was going to make this short. Let me just go ahead and check the notifications. Okay, this is a new one. This is how I know Hebrew Israelites are false. Oh well, that's a woman, so I don't want to hear what you got to say. You're a woman, first of all. What do you know? News update. This is what Christianity was always about. All right. See what else is out there. All hell is breaking loose in 2026. Yeah, that's true. The faucet was turned up. Trump special envoy to Greenland, craziest statement yet. And now they're talking about Stephen Miller. He's pulling the strings of Trump. That Trump is nothing but a puppet. He's just a front guy. They saying the guy. This is on one of these news shows. It was on. Matter of fact, it was on Bloomberg Radio. They're saying they're talking about this guy Steve Miller, part of the White House cabinet. I believe he's a cabinet member. He's the real guy that's pulling the strings. Like I said, this guy's just they saying he's a puppet. This is on Bloomberg Radio. I heard it about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Things are moving fast. And I said that. I said things will speed up. The Most High is going to turn that faucet even higher. See what else is coming up, happening. You know what? Let me just open this up and let this go. See what's up. Right, that's speaking of the devil. That's Steve Miller. They're saying he's the guy that pulls the strings, and he's a small hat. White House Deputy Chief of Staff says the world must be governed by force. And that's what he said. That's what I heard him say when they were talking about it on Bloomberg. So they're saying we're just taking shit over. But guess what? You got to deal with two other world powers. You got to deal with China and you got to deal with Russia. So ultimately, what's going to happen? Let me go ahead and let this play.
Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. All right, and just looking at this devil operate, all right, you know, just thinking of how the Trump administration came in on this big Christian kick, all right, and you have to ask yourself, well, you know, where is, you know, Jesus Christ, you know, the scriptures, you know, or, you know, even the Bible or whatever, you know, in the grand scheme of things of what these devils are doing as they have paraded themselves around as these Christians. And the only conclusion you can come to is the conclusion that we all know, is that this is what Christianity was always about. Okay, they were never into the scriptures. All right, it was always about self-indulgence. All right, justification of, you know, just destroying, pillaging, rape, robbing, and murdering. All right, using pseudoscience to point out how stupid people are, how low their IQs are. in order to justify, label them as, 3/5 of a human being, in order to take their resources and their lands and do what we continuously see them doing today. All right, as you can see here, White House Deputy Chief, all right, which is a tiny top. Okay, you can look it up for yourself. He's a tiny top. All right, this guy, Stephen Miller, all right, who at the so-called funeral of Charlie Kirk just went on a tirade about how, they represent light and you represent darkness, and, they built everything and we're greater than you and you are nothing and we're going to destroy you. All of these things when, the whole Charlie Kirk psyop, fiasco or whatever the hell that is, was another Edomite, all right, taking him out, all right, allegedly, all right, as nothing's adding up in these latter days. Even this newest Minneapolis psyop, when you go into it, it was on 33rd Street, all right, the person had 33 stitches. It's just, this devil is just making a mess all over the planet Earth. But White House Deputy Chief of Staff says that
I said, don't be surprised if this thing is a psyop. Got a lot of psyops out there.
The world must be governed by force. And this is what Christianity was always about as they went through the four corners of the earth.
Isaac gave me sort of thing. He said, this is your blessing. Is there not one blessing from your old father, Isaac? Yes, there's one. Here it is, the sword. And you got to kill, steal, and destroy to get them blessings. You got to steal. You got to kill people.
Just waging war on nations in the name of, Jesus Christ. It was always about dominating people, all right, undermining them, and taking their resources. Okay, this is what Christianity was always about. This whole Christian nationalist rhetoric that you've seen the Donald Trump administration go around with. This is what it always was. They were never into the scriptures. They're not about.
They don't know the scriptures. They don't know prophecy. If they knew the scriptures and they knew prophecy, they would tell Trump, look, man, we're going to wind up in the Third World War. This is Babylon. They ain't telling you that. What's her name? Something White is an evangelist woman with blonde hair. Something White. Her last name is White. Somebody help me out. She's like the advisor to this guy. She doesn't know the scriptures. She's one of them televangelists, man. This whole Christianity thing is all BS. We seen it, man. We seen it. Hey, the scriptures say this: by peace he shall destroy many. That's from Daniel chapter 8. That's also in the Apocrypha. First Maccabees 1. Read that whole chapter. In the 42nd, 41st verse, it says for all the people to come under one banner. And who's running this thing? Who's running this thing? What nation of people is running this thing? Looking at them.
Holy scriptures, man. All right. As a matter of fact, let's look at a few other things. More tariffs on India and China, which these tariffs are backfiring. All right. Net and Yuhu. All right. These are supposed to be the chosen people of the Heavenly Father. All right. And that whole state of Israel is rooted in what? All right. Continuation of British occupation. Continuation of British colonization. War. All right. Theft. Ethnic cleansing. All right. He's saying that Trump has given Israel the green light, all right, for a Lebanon operation. That's more war. Okay. Where the hell is the peace? Where is the Messiah in the grand scheme of things? Well, this is what it was always about. Okay. What they're doing in Gaza. All right. Nothing but corruption. Okay, FBI shuts down investigation of ICE shooting, denies access to evidence because it was a damn stage, man. Okay, nothing but war is being perpetuated under these devils, man. Okay. preparing for major war. Nothing but war. See that? Trump called for record 1.5 trillion defense budget. Okay, and you're worried about, all right, a few, a nigga with a food stamp card with $900 on it. Okay, not to undermine the, how our people operate, but come on, man. The whole Trump, administration is off of the back of pointing the finger at the darker nations and migrants, and this as the problem, that as the problem, when you're looking at the problem. Okay? Where's Jesus Christ? Okay, just striking boats and just justifying it with no evidence. Where's Jesus Christ? Where's turn the other cheek? Where's love? Okay? Just seizing oil tankers, right? Nothing's adding up, man. Everybody's figuring them out. Even their own kind is figuring them out. Right? Now, let me look at this article too real quick. Okay? Because these devils are just on a tirade, man. Trump says my own morality is the only thing that can stop me from world dominance. I don't need international law. So he's pretty much doing what America has always done. All right, and basically we're living at a time where these moves that they're making.
Didn't we say for the longest that this is a king? He ain't listening to the Supreme Court, the Congress, the Senate, House of Reps. He ain't listening to them. He's doing what the fuck he want to do because he's a king. That's why it says when you go to Isaiah 14 and Isaiah 14, and also Isaiah 14 it speaks about the king, the cruel Lord, in Isaiah 19.
All right, because what happened in Venezuela, as we'll show you, was centered around the fact that Venezuela was doing deals with, Iran, okay, and China, okay, and different, all right, with different monetary means outside of the U.S. dollar, okay, and in the U.S. in great U.S. fashion, all right, went and used the PSYOP, all right, used their Western media, okay, to push a narrative about drugs and coke. Like, this devil really wants coke to stop coming into America. He know where the coke is coming from because he's the #1 user of the coke. Okay, and we believe Maduro was in on it, but that there was more to it, and we'll show you. But this devil is not operating in love and anything that has to do with the scriptures. He's operating in what he's always operated in. Okay. Remember the doctrine of discovery. Okay, when these Christians went throughout the four corners of the earth, stealing land, but basically using pseudoscience, saying that the people that were on these lands weren't human beings, so that they could just shoot them down and take the land, and the land they discovered it. When really there were already people there. How the hell you discover something when people were already there? But this is the pride that these Christian nationalists have went through the four corners of the earth with, all right, and this is what the likes of Vocab Malone, all right, the likes of these so-called black conservatives like Anton Daniels, all right, and the Hodge twins, and the rest of these coons are trying to justify, man. Okay, and they keep a camera in front of the face of the discombobulated Negro, so that they can justify everything the white man is doing and saying is right. And of course, our people are wicked. Don't get it twisted, right? But we have to look at the pride of this devil as well, man. We get on 2/3 of our people. That's a part of
I don't get mad at the devil. The devil's righteous. You know why I say he's righteous? He's doing the right thing. You wicked. You Jake's a wicked. Esau's righteous because he's doing the right thing. What does righteous mean? Do the right thing. The Most High want him to do this. He's doing it. So he's righteous. He's righteous in his wickedness. So we shouldn't get mad. We shouldn't get mad at all. He's doing what he's supposed to do. It said a lamb came up with having two horns and spake as a dragon. Well, he's speaking as a dragon now. And you mentioned, I was thinking on it about Vocab Malone. Vocab Malone ain't condemning the woman that got shot in the head. Vocab Malone ain't condemning what this guy did. This is can you as a Christian be a thief, rob banks, and kill people, and shoot people down, and all of a sudden you call on Jesus and you save? Well, this guy claims he's a Christian. He just stole a fucking country. He had the woman vice president had her old ass. She's in her 50s. Had her old ass up in there, and he threatened her on news, on a major news. If she acts up, we're gonna tighten her up too. That's an act of a bully. The hammer. One of the brothers was going on into the thing about the hammer of the earth. That's in Jeremiah, I believe it's 50 or 51. Let's find out. Let me see, Jeremiah 50. Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second, y'all. Let me go to the word hammer. Here we go. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation, a desert among the nations? Because that's what's going to happen. Go up against the land of Marathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pequod. Waste and utterly destroy after them, saith Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. Because Russia is going to do, and the other nations that have these long-range missiles, they're going to do the bidding of the Most High. Right? It said a sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. That's talking about the daughter of Babylon. It said, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art taken, O Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found. You're not aware of it. It says, and thou was not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Yahweh. Because how did you strive against Yahweh? Through Yahweh's people. Through blaspheming the name of Yahweh. That's in Revelation 17. Let's go to that. Revelation 17. Blast. Okay, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. The scarlet-colored beast is NATO and the EU. The woman is the daughter of Babylon, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. I'm looking for let me see. Blasphemy. Let me go to the word blaspheme. Okay, 1. Give me a second here. This is what I want, but I'm looking at other things. Blaspheme, blasphemy, blasphemed. Okay, I want the word New Testament. Excuse me, y'all. I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, right? 13 and 1. Heads, and upon his head crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High. to blaspheme his name. That's why when they get these guys to sell out, they say, don't call on the name of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Don't teach your people that. So let me just go ahead and look up the word blasphemy. Blasphemy, blasphemed. You have worn out the saints of the Most High, Daniel 7. We getting into prophecy, bro. Blasphemy. Blaspheme. Blasphemy, blaspheme, the same thing.
Strong's G 987. Blasphemeo. Blasphemeo.
Speak reproachfully or disrespectfully, rail at, revile, calumniate, blaspheme, to be evil spoken of, reviled, railed at. So when you talk about the men of the Most High, you're really disrespecting the Most High. That's in Acts 5 and 38. Happily ye be found even to fight against the Most High. So let me come back over here. Let me let this go. Let's let this rip.
Gospel to tell them to stop being wicked and that they're going to be destroyed. But this devil is just on a tirade. As a matter of fact, let's get the scripture, right? Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. Okay? This promise to make America great again is really fattening the pockets of the elite, getting them prepared to enter into the NWO. This technocracy, because they're getting ready to do away with governments as you know it. You keep hearing Trump talking about banning the election. It's very well. It looks like ain't gonna be no new election, because Trump is bringing in the technocracy. Okay, and when it's all said and done, when they finish with these psyops, they're gonna justify AI governance. Okay, surveillance, Palantir, all of these various different things, digital ID, social credit score to get online. You're gonna have to pass certain, merits and microchips. War is in these devils' hearts, man. See? His words were softer than oil. Yeah, I like 2 Corinthians, and I love Jesus, and it's all the Bible, and it's like, well, wait a minute. At what point are you going to use the Bible and go into the scriptures to deal with with your actions? They're not. See that? They're not, man. Psalms 40 and 2, which imagine mischief in their hearts, continually are they gathered together for war. They're not going to stop. See? Let's go to Psalms 50. Psalms 50, man. So the words of his mouth, let's start at 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Okay, so he's operating outside of even his own agreements and so-called law, just because the dominance of the dollar is waning in these latter days. And we know it's the elites playing both sides, but America is being set up for the okie doke, man. Let's go to Psalms 50. Right? Psalms 50 and 16. But unto the wicked the Most High said, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Okay, but because this whole Christian nationalist movement, all right, within it is you have to, in order to be blessed, you got to bless Israel. So Israel is getting, I'm talking about billions of dollars in military aid, and now you got this guy Netanyahu, all right, because people are waking up to it. Now he's talking about, well, in the future we plan on lessening our dependence on money from the U.S. for a military budget.
That would be a very...
I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
We kept, as you say, American military support to the tune of $3.8 billion a year. Much appreciated. So now in my visit with President Trump, I said, we very deeply appreciate the military
This is
aid.
what you call a welfare state. That place that he's speaking about is a welfare state. And you're paying for it through your tax dollars.
That America has given us over the years, but here too we've come of age. And we've developed incredible capacities. And in our economy, which will soon reach, certainly within a decade, it'll reach about $1 trillion. It's not a huge economy, but it's not a small economy. So I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years. But that's not saying that I don't want to fight for the
You don't believe that shit. You got an arm full of it. I don't believe this motherfucker.
allegiance and support of the American people. I do. You have to be crazy not to. And it's something deep. It's not.
You want to taper it off to zero within 10 years?
Yes.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
Well, it's in the works.
Yeah, right. Well, they're saying that because basically, in the grand scheme of things, people are waking up to their ass. Okay? People are waking up to them. Okay? So, Psalms 50 and 16, but unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction and casted my words behind thee. They're not about the scriptures, man. They're about their own blood, lust, and thirst.
That's what Christianity is all about. They'll say they believe in Jesus, they believe in the Bible, but if you hit them with the scripture or the law, oh, that's the law. We don't. The law is done away with. It's all about Jesus.
First, for control and dominance. All right, and to make mockery of nations of people and present them as low IQ or lessen their appearance, man. That's what they thrive off of. You don't this whole high IQ lie, which Christians forwarded, that they have to clean up the new world, the Puritans, they have to clean up the new world and save it from the savages, right? Which don't get it twisted. Some of our people, there were people over here doing wickedness, but none of these things get you devils off the hook, man. See, when thou sawest a thief, you considered with him, and has been partaker with adulterers, man. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. All right, because now people are waking up to how much money is going to the small house. Now he wants to do an interview talking about, yeah, we plan on taking it from billions to zero, from trillions to zero, and the amount of aid we get from Babylon.
10 years, so we're talking about another. We're talking about it's 2026. We're talking about 2036. They'll stop. No, they come up with a new. They're not going to go that long. That's the bottom line.
Which is coming out of U.S. taxpayers' pockets. All of these wars. Okay? Because we could talk about the welfare budget, right? Which a lot of you Edomites benefit from that. But what about the war budget? What about corporate welfare? What about all of these unnecessary wars? What about how all of these sanctions, which are biting Americans in the ass, right? And so forth, man. So this is what Christianity was always about. It was never about, the will of the Lord, which ultimately through the left hand they are doing the will of the Lord, but they present themselves as a lamb, two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon, man.
My morality, Donald Trump says my morality is the only thing that can stop me from world dominance. I don't need international law. He's going to dominate the whole, their plan is to dominate the whole planet, but the Most High is going to upset that. Like I said, it's not in their mind that Russia, China, the EU and the NATO nations that possess missiles, a missile system, Pakistan, Iran, they can't see that in their future. That's in Isaiah 47. It refers to them as like virgins, untouched by war. But they're going to be touched. They're going to really be touched.
Okay, the whole Christian thing. Okay, because they're not going into the scriptures, but they keep talking about Jesus Christ.
When you tell him that he's not black. First of all, that wool is lamb's wool. It's not black man's wool. It's a different type of wool. And the bronze, he was really white. His head and his hairs were white, like he had a white head. He was a white man. Oh, so he came down with this disease of leprosy? Because that's what being white is. Read about Mary getting leprosy. She turned into a white woman.
It's a psyop, man. Okay? These devils are up to no good. Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So the two horns both play on the minds of, this Christian thing. The left hand brings it out, all right, but they spread nothing but anti-Messiah, all right, degenerate behavior, all right, Pat and Pookie and Ray Ray and Waniqua on the back talking about Black Lives Matter, nothing but degenerate behavior. The LGBT XYZ is exalted. Okay, nothing but a farce. Then you have the right wing. They talk about Jesus, but at the same time, they're beating everybody's ass and stealing and destroying and starting wars and undermining people and mocking. Right? So where's the love? Where's Jesus? Well, this is what Jesus was always about. Okay, this is what it was always about. Trump says his only guardrail as he looks to obtain more global power, right? Not peace. Because remember he said he was going to come in the office and, we're going to get rid of all of the pedo rings. All right, we're going to arrest the Clintons. All right, we're going to stop war. We're going to bring back jobs to America. We're going to make America great again. We're going to do this. We're going to bring peace, yada, yada, yada. Not one of those promises have been fulfilled. No pedo rings have been busted. They brought out a few pages of the Epstein files, which we know is a farce anyway,
none of them
right?
got arrested or even sued. You had Clinton. You got all these top politicians, even the Obamas and so forth. That's all a part of that elite club, that they were all getting freaky. And he keeps covering this thing up. This files, there's supposed to be 1 million files or something like that. 1 million something of all kind of information, photos and so forth. The whole world is waking up to this devil. It tells you in Isaiah 13 that they're going to flee. It's in another place in the scriptures too, but I always go to Isaiah 13. They shall flee to their homelands, because they see that this place is done.
Okay, there's more wars. Okay, AI and technology is taking over a lot of your jobs. People are losing jobs, right? And what's keeping the patriot American, happy is the fact that you turn on the news and so-called blacks and Hispanics are being blamed. Now they went to the Somalians, right? And they're just on X, Twitter, just having a party, talking about niggas. And if you were so superior, why don't you just be superior? Why does your superiority always have to be centered around undermining and making other people look stupid and bad? Why don't you just be superior? Where's Jesus? Because all of these people, these devils on X and all over, they're all Christians, right? See, where's Jesus?
Yeah, these people, these jakes especially, vocab and them coming in wanting to have debates. First of all, they don't know scriptures. We don't need you. This is not about having every week for the next 10 years having endless fucking debates that lead to nowhere. There's no way you're gonna wake us up to that bullshit, because that's what it is. We ain't trying to wake your asses up. None of you guys, from vocab to God Logic to Sam Simone, none of you guys know having a clue about any of the prophetic parts of the Bible. You would not touch it with a 10-foot pole, hell, 100-foot pole. You don't know the scriptures. You're supposed to if you're going to be a teacher, you got to have the whole Bible in you. Eat this book. Eat the little book. Revelation 10. John was told to eat the little book. And you will go before many tongues and nations and peoples, and you will prophesy before them. When did that come to pass? When did that ever happen? Esau can't tell you that. The scholars can't tell you that. There's no record of that. And they'll put, well, it represents you going out there and teach. No, it said that John was going to come back and prophesy before many kings and tongues and nations. That's what it says in Revelation 10. So what does it mean? It's reincarnation. That's something that not one Christian believes in, reincarnation.
All right? I don't need international law. This is his approach to foreign policy. This is why he's getting ready to lose allies, man. Now he wants Latin America, more countries in Latin America. He wants Greenland, which this is going to ultimately destroy what was known as NATO. Okay? The German president says the U.S. is undermining world order. Okay? He warned that the U.S. is turning global politics into a den of robbers. So we're getting ready to see war. We're getting ready to see. We're seeing the Edomite for what he really is at the end of the day. All right? Miss me with this Jesus crap. Okay? Let's go here.
On January 3rd, 2026, 2 days ago, U.S. Special Operations Forces landed in Caracas, Venezuela, and captured the sitting president of a sovereign nation. Nicolas Maduro was taken into custody, flown to the United States, and is now being held on drug trafficking and terrorism charges. The U.S. government called it a law enforcement operation. The rest of the world called it an invasion. You probably saw the headlines. You probably saw the official statement. The president of the United States stood at a podium and said this was about national security, about stopping drug cartels, about protecting democracy. But that is not what this was about. This was about oil. This was about the petrodollar. And this was about sending a message to every country on earth that if you try to sell oil in anything other than US dollars, we will remove your government by force. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, 303 billion barrels. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than Iraq. For 50 years, Venezuela sold that oil in US dollars. But over the past 6 years, Venezuela stopped using dollars. They started selling to China in yuan. They started trading with Russia in rubles. They started using barter systems.
See that?
Yeah, that's your world reserve currency, which is known as the petrodollar. You buy petrol or oil for one country. Country A goes to country B. They have to what's the word? Exchange their money to U.S. money, which are Federal Reserve notes, and buy it. And then the ones that sell the oil, they get American dollars, and they got to convert it back to their money. So what is it? How does that affect them? When they create more dollars, it weakens the dollar. You find out you got a weakened dollar.
They started trading, giving their oil, all right, but outside of the petrodollar, which the petrodollar, what we're finding out is that the petrodollar is really just backed by vanity, pride, the sword. Not really.
It's backed by the military. That's why. First, excuse me, I'm eating something. I ain't eat it all day. Please forgive me. It's Desert Shield, and then you had Desert Storm, because Iran was making a deal between Germany, if I'm not mistaken, for oil, and they wasn't going through switching the dollar over, their dollar. There's a system called a SWIFT system, and I did a lesson on that. I got to go back into that. You have the BRICS nations. The BRICS nations, from what I heard, I mean, everything's moving so fast. You got to keep watching the news. I believe they when they do deals with between the BRIC nations, that they don't switch their dollars to U.S. dollars and back to their dollars back to U.S. dollars. So they're cutting the middleman out, you know.
The laws and all of these things is really the sword that has enforced the petrodollar as the dominant. See, but that sword is waning in these latter days. Okay? So Venezuela had systems set up to where, they were giving China resources, right? They just had deals with China where we'll give you oil, all right? You give us this, all right? They had systems set up with Iran, all right? Pretty much, we'll give you oil, and you don't have to pay us in the petrol. You can pay us in your monetary means. Okay, and other nations are looking back, are sitting back watching this. Okay, so all of these moves that Trump is making in America, they're pretty much working against America. Okay, a snare is being laid for Babylon the Great, and the Heavenly Father through the left hand is at the forefront of it. Okay, let me let him.
Their shame shall be seen. Was that Isaiah 47? So the whole world's seeing that. It's like you robbing people in broad daylight. At lunchtime, everybody's walking around, and then you say, well, that wasn't me. Nigga, it's broad daylight. 27 people saw you do this, man. People that live in your building saw you do this. That's what this guy's doing. He's an untouchable. He thinks he cannot be touched. He does not the Christian community does not realize that this place is going to be destroyed pursuant to scriptures. But because you don't know how to break the codes down in the prophetic books, you think, well, that's not talking about us. A lot of these Christians don't even understand the whole mark of the beast things. There's Israelites that don't understand it. You're going to get all of you are going to get a rude awakening. That includes Christians and Israelites.
I'm talking. All right. Give me 1 second, Salakia, because he can say it better than I can.
The rest of the world called it an invasion. You probably saw the headlines. You probably saw the official statement. The President of the United States stood at a podium and said this was about national security, about stopping drug cartels, about protecting democracy. But that is not what this was about. This was about oil. This was about the petrodollar. And this was about sending a message to every country on earth that if you try to sell oil in anything other than US dollars, we will remove your government by force. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, 303 billion barrels. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than Iraq. For 50 years, Venezuela sold that oil in US dollars. But over the past 6 years, Venezuela stopped using dollars. They started selling to China in yuan. They started trading with Russia in rubles. They started using barter systems with Iran. They walked away from the petrodollar. And now their president is in a US prison. This is not about democracy. This is not about drugs. This is about what happens when you challenge the foundation of American financial power. The petrodollar is not a suggestion. It is an enforcement system. And Venezuela just became the example. But here's the part the U.S. government did not think through. By invading Venezuela to enforce the petrodollar, they just showed every other oil-producing country exactly what the system really is. It is not an economic arrangement. It is a protection racket backed by military force. And when you show
that backed by the sword is really what backs the petrodollar. The force of what happens if you try to operate outside of it is what has, all right, kept it as the #1 currency in the world. See? But as we know in the scriptures, there's going to come a time, right, which we're living in that time, where the nations are no longer going to flow through her. And it seems impossible because of the dominance of the dollar, but we're witnessing it right before our very eyes. But at the forefront of it is pride. Okay? Jeremiah 51:44, I will punish Baal in Babylon. So all of these idols and things are being addressed by the Lord. You don't just get away. And see, this is what Trump and this whole Edomite supremacist kick under him and Elon and these devils and, this talk, even Elon tried to tap into Jesus Christ. We know goddamn well these devils ain't really into the Bible like that. But they do that to play on you patriots, because the patriot loves Jesus, right? But really, it's all about the sword and being bad, walking around with the shades on. You can't tell an Edomite with shades on nothing. He don't put his blinker on. He's just looking straight on his way to destroy, seek to kill, steal, and destroy, man. And the woman, oh my goodness, the Edomite woman with some shades on. You can't tell them nothing. You couldn't tell them nothing in the past, but now they're being told about themselves, and they don't know how to react. The only way they can react is by what? Pointing the finger at you as being the problem and being the sword. But we're going to see how that works, man. Tired of you damn devils, man. You ain't all that. And you are the problem of the earth. Yes, there are problems that are outside of you. We can't blame you for everything in the world, right? Yes, we know and understand that even our people, they're wicked. But you are the problem. Your people are the problem. The elites of your people more than anything. And you everyday Edomites, you just think that your country and its history is just going to be wiped away and you're going to reestablish your dominance. These elites ain't looking out for you dumbasses, man. Okay? And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he swallowed up. All that gold, you're going to give it back. And the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. Nations will no longer worship him. And the reason that they worshiped him, right, was because of what? His ability to swing that sword. Okay? Revelation 13 and 4. And they worshiped the dragon, the modern day Rome, right? Which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who was able to make war with him? So his sword and his dominance of the nations, all right, had him in a position of God-like power. Like people like, God damn. All right? It was the sword that really got this devil to where he is. Not his superiority, not him just being so great.
Yeah, he's a Leviathan in Isaiah 27. Let me go to that right quick. You got an actual Leviathan in Job 41, but you got Esau as being called Leviathan. He's a crooked serpent. Isaiah 27. The deliverance of Israel. And in that day, Yahweh with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan. That's Esau. Yeah, but wait a minute. It says in Job 41 that's talking about the actual sea monster. This is talking about Esau, the Edomites, the power structure of the Edomites. The piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent. And he shall slay the dragon, with that old dragon, which is the devil and Satan. Right? Revelation chapter 20. That is in the sea. The sea represents waters. Those are peoples, nations, tongues, and so forth. And that day, sing ye unto her a vineyard, sing ye unto her a vineyard of red wine. I, Yahweh, do keep it. I will water it every moment, lest any hurt it. I will keep it night and day. Fury is not in me. Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? I will go through them. I would burn them together. Ultimately, that's going to happen to Esau. Let me jump down to the 6th verse. He shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Who comes of Jacob? Israelites. He will cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Remember, there's not going to be no root left for Esau to build on. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. And fruit are your offspring too. Hath he smitten him as he smitten those that smote him? Or is he slain according to the slaughter of them that are slain by him? Let me jump down to the 9th verse. By this, therefore, shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged, and this is all the fruit to take away his sin, because we're going to be without sin in the kingdom. We're going to be perfect. When he maketh all the stones of the altar as chalk stones that are beaten in sunder, the grooves and the images shall not stand up. Yet the defenced city shall be desolate, and the inhabitants forsaken, and left like a wilderness. There shall the calf feed, and there shall the lion lay down. That's also in Isaiah 11. and consume the branches thereof. That's describing the kingdom. The kingdom is going to be here on earth. The whole planet is going to be changed around. Now it said root, right? It said, let me find root again. Let me find root. 6th verse, he shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Let me go ahead and look up the word root. I should either put root or roots. All right, good. It's not in there that many times. This is what I want. I want Isaiah. Right, and in that day there should be a root of Jesse. Right? Here we go. Isaiah 14:29. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestinian, the Arab, the Middle Eastern world, because the rod of him that smote thee, whose rod? Esau's rod. That's in Isaiah 14. Is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a flying fiery serpent. Those are missiles. But I wanted the word root again. Here we go. 30th verse. The firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. That's Israel. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant. That's Esau. Not going to be any more root. Let me try this. Let me do the word roots. I'm going to do the word roots and rooted. Roots and rooted. Okay, it's not there. But anyway, let's come on back. Come on back.
And smarter than everybody, it was what? The blessing given unto him by the Heavenly Father through Isaac of the sword.
World that the dollar system is main.
That's the sword right there. His military might. That's the sword. This is the only way you're going to get blessed is you got to take other people's stuff. That's also in Habakkuk 2. Let me go to that real quick. Habakkuk 2. I want to go right down to the point. We're in the time that Habakkuk was waiting for. So Habakkuk is here among us. I don't know who he is. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Faith. We are the just. We're going to live by faith. We're going to trust in the Most High. What about the chip? And you can't eat nothing. You can't. Well, we're going to trust in the Most High. Yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, his philosophy, his democracy, he is a proud man, need to keep it at home. Perfect example happened last week. He went down to Venezuela, put a case together. Oh, he's selling drugs, he's doing this, he's giving oil to Chinese and this, that, and the third. So they just took the country. They said, that's our country now. They just took it. They told the vice president, look, if you got any problem, we'll deal with you too. We'll bring up false charges on you too. How is the hammer of the earth? What does it say? This is the hammer of the earth. It says, also because he transgressed by wine, his policies, his wicked policies, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. Wherever he goes, he brings hell with it, which is death, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. That's the same thing said in First Maccabees 1, around about the 40 some odd verse, that he wanted, Antiochus Epiphanes wanted to bring everybody under one banner, which today is called a one world order. So not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting parable against him, and say, woe unto him that increases that which is not his. That which is not his. Venezuela is not his. How long is this going to be? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Now, Bishop Nate said last weekend, he said that means all the nations are coming to America. No, it doesn't mean that. Ladeth himself with thick clay is talking about debt. Because the elite want their money. I believe when Trump first came in, I believe it was his first term. It had to be, you know what the debt was? It was something like 19 trillion. Now it's double that. They were talking shit about when Obama came in and the debt went up. Every president that came in, the debt keeps going up. You can't slow it down. You can't reverse it. And the interest on that debt alone, which is almost 40 trillion, it works out to about $1 trillion. So every year they got to give $1 trillion to the elite to pay off that debt, and that debt will never be paid for, because by the time the next year comes around, it'll go up $3 or $4 trillion more. It goes up $1 trillion, I think, every 3 months, 4 months. So it can never be paid off. This is why he's doing what he's doing. He's gathering money together. They want their money. That's talking about heavy debt. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite them, the other nations? And what are they going to bite them with? The missiles. And awake that shall vex them, and thou shalt be for booties or spoils unto them. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall what? Spoil thee, because of men's blood, death, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that space, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Now that's these bunkers. These bunkers, they plan on being out of space somewhere on the space station. That's Amos. What is that? Amos 9:2. Right? They're gonna try to go in these underground. There's a commercial where this guy they deliver something. I don't know if it's FedEx or one of them Amazon. And the guy's in a fallout shelter. And they delivered something to the guy. It was an Edomite. And then he invited the guy, yeah, come down. He said, oh, this is bigger than what I thought. They showing you in their TV commercials what they're going to do. They don't lie. They tell you what they're going to do. But they give it to you in code. It said, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness. Let me go over here. Okay, so the word there is batazai, to cut off, break off, gain by unrighteousness. Gain by unrighteousness, violence, get finished. Be covetous, be greedy. And they talk about, we want to put the 10 Commandments back in schools. Well, you know what it says in the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not covet. To cut off, to stop, to gain wrongfully or by violence. To cut off, sever, to finish, complete, accomplish, to violently make gain of. And that's exactly what he's doing. Where are these evangelicals at? Where are these rabbis? Where's the Pope? Where's all these religious leaders that's condemning this act? He clearly went down there and took that land over. He went into another sovereign land, took the leader of that land, arrested his ass, And he just took the fucking land. And the current president now, this is a woman president, 56 years old. He threatened her. He said, "Look, you got any problem with this? You can get some of this too. We'll lie and say you did something and take your ass too." So the scriptures speak about this being hypocritical. Let me look that up. I'm a lousy speller. Hypocritical nation, it says. Hypocritical. Let me try this. Hypocritical. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the street. Now, this happened to Jake when they were going off because they were hypocrites, right? So now this applies to Esau. All these curses now apply to Esau. Deuteronomy 30 verse 7. With hypocritical mockers in feast, they gnash upon me with their teeth. But this is what I wanted to. Hypocritical nation. Let's come back over here. Listen to a little bit more of this.
Maintained through invasions and regime change, you do not strengthen the system. You accelerate its collapse. China is watching. Saudi Arabia is watching. Russia is watching. And they're all asking the same question. If the U.S.
I got to bring that back. The whole, not just them three, the whole nation's watching. The whole world is watching. They said the Arabs are watching. China's watching. And who did they mention here? Let me just play this again.
Beast, they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who was able to make war with him?" So his sword and his dominance of the nations, had him in a position of God-like power. Like people like, God damn. All right. It was the sword that really got this devil to where he is, not his superiority, not him just being so great and smarter than everybody. It was what? The blessing given unto him by the Heavenly Father through Isaac of the sword.
World that the dollar system is maintained through invasions and regime change, you do not strengthen the system. You accelerate its collapse. China is watching. Saudi Arabia is watching. Russia is watching. And they are all asking the same question. If the U.S. is willing to invade Venezuela to stop de-dollarization, what will they do to us? And the answer they are arriving at is simple. We need to leave the dollar system as fast as possible before we are next. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how Venezuela went from being a founding member of OPEC and a key U.S. oil supplier to a country that was invaded for leaving the dollar system. I am going to show you the 27-year timeline from Hugo Chavez taking power to U.S. forces landing in Caracas 48 hours ago. I'm going to show you the $800 billion in oil trade that Venezuela shifted out of dollars and why that made them a target. And I am going to show you why the January 3rd invasion is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the end of the petrodollar itself. Because when you enforce a system through military power, you do not get compliance. You get resistance. And right now, 14 countries are accelerating their plans to exit the dollar system. They watched what happened to Venezuela, and they are not going to let it happen to them. This is not financial advice. This is a geopolitical analysis of how the United States just made the single biggest strategic mistake since the Iraq War. And you're going to pay for it at the gas pump, at the grocery store, and in your retirement account.
Yes, you American people are going to pay for all of these moves that are being made eventually. All right, but we're hoping that the Lord eventually just stops this whole system, everything, man. We're tired of it all. All right, we're holding on through faith, right? But the Lord is getting ready to do away with this man and his system, man. You ain't gonna have to worry about a job and going to work and all of this crap that you got to do to keep yourself afloat in this system, man. A ID, a digital ID, digital money. Okay, in the world to come, you ain't gonna need none of this. Okay? A plastic ID identifies who you are. Now, in our kingdom, we're going to look at your spirit and know who the hell you are, man. Because the Lord gave a spirit unto man, and this system has dehumanized you to the point where the spirit and earth don't really matter. Okay, it's just all about one-upping on somebody, all right, and getting what you can outside of, all right, things that benefit the spirit, man. This is a dehumanization process that has run its course, man. Babylon the Great. Okay, and the rest of these devils ain't innocent. All right, but as we go into the New World Order, right, the rest of these heathen, they're not innocent. But as we get into the New World Order, these elites ain't gonna agree. See?
We start at the beginning, because to understand why the U.S. invaded Venezuela on January 3rd, 2026, you need to understand what Venezuela was before Hugo Chavez and what it became after. Venezuela was discovered to have massive oil reserves in the early 20th century. By the 1970s, Venezuela was one of the founding members of OPEC and one of the largest oil exporters in the world. Venezuela's state oil company, PDVSA, was supplying over 1.5 million barrels per day to U.S. refineries. The oil came to Texas and Louisiana. It was refined into gasoline and diesel. It powered the U.S. economy, and every single barrel was paid for in U.S. dollars. This was the petrodollar system. Venezuela produced oil. The U.S. bought it in dollars. Venezuela took those dollars and bought U.S. goods, U.S. weapons, and U.S. Treasury bonds. The dollar circulated back to the United States. It was a closed loop. Venezuela got rich. The U.S. got cheap oil and a market for its debt. Everybody won. But this system had one requirement. Venezuela had to stay inside the dollar system. They had to price their oil in dollars. They had to accept payment in dollars. They had to keep their reserves in dollars. If they ever left the dollar system, the entire arrangement would break down. For decades, this was not a problem. Venezuelan presidents understood the deal. You stay in the dollar system, you get access to U.S. markets and protection. You leave the dollar system, you become an enemy. It was simple, and it worked. Then, in 1999...
And that's what they did with the Chinese. They made a deal with the Chinese. When they were blocking them tankers, they were blocking it from China.
Hugo Chavez was elected president, and he did not agree to the deal. Hugo Chavez was a former military officer who ran on a platform of economic nationalism and anti-imperialism. He looked at Venezuela's oil wealth and asked a simple question. Why are we selling our oil to the United States for dollars when we could sell it to the highest bidder in any currency? Why are we allowing U.S. companies to extract profits from our resources? Why are we integrated into a financial system that allows the U.S. to control our economy through currency and debt? In 2000, Chavez made his first major move. He traveled to Iraq and met with Saddam Hussein. This was during the sanctions era when the U.S. had isolated Iraq. Chavez shook hands with Saddam on television and announced that Venezuela would sell oil to Iraq in exchange for goods, not dollars. Barter. This was a direct challenge to the petrodollar. In 2001, Chavez pushed through a new hydrocarbons law that gave the Venezuelan government majority control over all oil projects in the country. U.S. oil companies like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, which had operated in Venezuela for decades, were told they had to give up majority ownership or leave. Most of them left. In 2005, Chavez began selling oil to China under long-term contracts. The terms were simple. China would provide infrastructure loans and investments. Venezuela would repay the loans in oil. No dollars involved. This was the beginning of the Venezuela-China Oil for Loans program that would eventually reach $60 billion. In 2006, Chavez announced that Venezuela would sell oil to Cuba at subsidized rates in exchange for Cuban doctors and teachers. Again, no dollars. Barter. In 2007, Chavez pulled Venezuela's...
That's called a barter system, and he mentioned that. He said barter. That's a barter system.
...of the international monetary...
When the money system is no more good, you go back to a barter system. You trade.
Fund and the World Bank. He said these institutions were tools of U.S. economic control. He paid off all of Venezuela's debts to them and stopped participating in their programs. By 2008,
he paid the debt. He paid the debts.
Give me 1 second.
This was openly calling for the end of the petrodollar. He gave speeches at the United Nations, saying that the world should create a new reserve currency to replace the dollar. He proposed a South American currency called the sucre to facilitate trade without dollars. He was building alliances with Iran, Russia, and China based on the idea of creating a non-dollar trading bloc. And the U.S. government watched all of this and realized they had a problem. Venezuela was not just leaving the petrodollar. They were actively trying to build an alternative system and convince other countries to join them. If other oil exporters followed Venezuela's lead, the entire petrodollar system would collapse. But the U.S. did not invade in 2008. They tried regime change through other means. In 2002, there was a coup attempt against Chavez. He was briefly removed from power. The U.S. denied involvement, but it was later confirmed that the CIA had provided support to the coup plotters. The coup failed. Chavez returned to power within 48 hours. The U.S. tried again in 2004 with a recall referendum. They funded opposition groups. They used NGOs and media campaigns to try to turn the Venezuelan people against Chavez. The referendum failed. Chavez won with 59% of the vote. So the U.S. moved to economic warfare. If they could not remove Chavez directly, they would strangle the Venezuelan economy until the people removed him themselves. Hugo Chavez died of cancer in 2013. His vice president, Nicolas Maduro, took over. Maduro continued Chavez's policies. He continued moving away from the dollar. He continued strengthening ties with China and Russia. And the U.S. continued trying to remove him. In 2015, President Obama declared Venezuela a national security threat and imposed the first round of sanctions. These were targeted sanctions on specific Venezuelan officials, but they signaled the beginning of a coordinated economic attack. In 2017, the Trump administration massively escalated escalated the sanctions. Here's what they did. They banned U.S. companies from buying Venezuelan oil. This immediately cut off Venezuela's largest customer. The U.S. had been buying 500,000 barrels per day from Venezuela. That is $13.7 billion per year in oil revenue at $75 per barrel. Gone overnight. They froze all Venezuelan government assets held in U.S. banks. Venezuela had approximately $7 billion in dollar-denominated accounts in the U.S. financial system. Frozen. Venezuela could not access its own money. They prohibited U.S. companies from providing insurance, shipping, or financial services to Venezuelan oil tankers. This made it nearly impossible for Venezuela to sell oil to anyone because most international shipping and insurance is denominated in dollars and facilitated by U.S. or European companies. Even if China wanted to buy Venezuelan oil, getting that oil from Venezuela to China required ships, insurance, and payment systems.
That's why they stopped them ships. Last week. It was last week. The ships would get. What was the whole backstory? It was Russia sending their ships over, and it was China. So they were blocking the oil. And you had certain news people saying, "Well, I thought this was about drugs. Why is he stopping? What does this oil thing have to do with it?" Because they're not getting a cut. This is nothing but mafioso tactics. That's all this is.
That were now prohibited from working with Venezuela. They banned Venezuela from issuing new debt in U.S. markets. This cut Venezuela off from international capital markets. They could not borrow money to finance government operations or oil production. And most devastatingly, they prohibited U.S. companies from selling spare parts, equipment, or technology to PDVSA. Venezuela's oil infrastructure was built with American equipment. The refineries, the drilling rigs, the pumps, all of it required American
parts. They have to know how to do that. You have certain countries that have these resources, but don't have the technology to build the infrastructure to get the oil out or whatever, bauxite or gold. You know, there's a process to get gold and silver and bauxite and many things of oil.
Parts and expertise to maintain. When the U.S. banned the sale of these parts, Venezuela's oil production began collapsing. The numbers tell the story. In 2016, before sanctions, Venezuela was producing 2.4 million barrels per day. By 2020, production had fallen to 500,000 barrels per day, an 80% collapse. Oil revenue fell from $56 billion per year to $11 billion per year. The economy imploded. Hyperinflation hit 1.7 million% at its peak. People were starving. The country was in crisis. The U.S. government said...
Remember they were going into... cannibalism was taking place back then. I remember that. I did videos on that. They were going in the zoos eating the fucking zoo animals. They had nothing, man. And because they broke a deal with Babylon. So this is a way, and not one of these Christians have anything negative to say about Babylon. Not one of them. Maybe less than 1% will even mention, "Oh, Babylon's America." There's certain Christian groups that say that, but the 99.9% of them, they don't. First of all, they don't know prophecy. The most important part of the book right now is prophecy, because prophecies, the end time prophecies, are coming to pass. We're living in the end time prophecies.
This was about democracy and human rights. But let me show you the comparison that proves this was about the petrodollar. Iran, heavily sanctioned for decades, currently under massive sanctions. Why? Because Iran sells oil in non-dollar currencies and challenges U.S. dominance. Iran's human rights record is worse than Venezuela's. But the primary issue is not human rights. It is oil and the dollar. Russia. Sanctions intensified after 2022. Why? Because Russia began demanding payment for oil and gas in rubles, not dollars. The U.S. said it was about Ukraine.
They don't want to deal with switching the money over. That's the same thing happened in the early 90s. The Desert Storm. I believe it was Iraq and Germany, which Germany is a member of NATO and I believe the EU, that they were doing deals and they were cutting out the U.S. They wasn't getting the cut. So they said, okay, we're going to attack you.
Look at the financial warfare. They froze $300 billion in Russian reserves. They cut Russia out of SWIFT. They targeted Russian oil exports.
They cut Russia. I mentioned SWIFT, the SWIFT system.
Dollar enforcement. Saudi Arabia. Terrible human rights record. Killed a journalist. Bombs Yemen. No sanctions. Why? Because Saudi Arabia sells oil exclusively in dollars and recycles those dollars into U.S. Treasury bonds. Saudi Arabia is inside the petrodollar system. Therefore, Saudi Arabia is an ally, no matter what they do. The pattern is clear. If you sell oil in dollars, you are protected. If you sell oil in anything other than dollars...
That's mafioso shit. Mafioso.
You're sanctioned, isolated, and regime changed. This is not about human rights. This is about maintaining the petrodollar. And Venezuela understood this, so they made a choice. If the U.S. is going to sanction us and try to destroy our economy anyway, we might as well completely abandon the dollar and build an alternative system. Here's what Venezuela did between 2017 and 2025. They sold oil to China in yuan. China became Venezuela's largest customer, buying approximately 500,000 barrels per day by 2024. All transactions in yuan, $0. That is $13.7 billion per year in non-dollar oil sales. They sold oil to India in rupees. India needed cheap oil and was willing to ignore U.S. sanctions. India bought 200,000 barrels per day, paid in rupees. That is $5.5 billion per year in non-dollar sales. They sold oil to Russia in a bar. They targeted Russian oil exports in dollars per year to $11 billion per year. The economy and Russian reserves. They cut Russia out of SWIFT. They targeted Russian oil exports. This is dollar isolated and regime changed. This is not about human rights. This is about maintaining the petrodollar. And Venezuela understood this, so they made a choice. If the U.S. is going to sanction us and try to destroy our economy anyway, we might as well completely abandon the dollar and build an alternative system. Here's what Venezuela did between 2017 and 2025. They sold oil to China in yuan. China became Venezuela's largest customer.
They seized those oil tankers because the oil tankers were the oil was going to China. And China they cut out the middleman. They said, we'll deal with Chinese money. You give us, you got yuans and your what is it? Renminbi or yuans. So what they would do is China would buy the oil and they would switch it over to Venezuelan money. And the middleman was supposed to be the U.S. So they're saying we're not dealing with the middleman. We lose money out of that. So this is what this thing is all about.
Buying approximately 500,000 barrels per day by 2024. All transactions in yuan, $0. That is $13.7 billion per year in non-dollar oil sales. They sold oil to India in rupees. India needed cheap oil and was willing to ignore U.S. sanctions. India bought 200,000 barrels per day, paid in rupees. That is $5.5 billion per year in non-dollar sales. They sold oil to Russia in a barter system. Venezuela shipped oil to Russia. Russia shipped wheat, machinery, and military equipment to Venezuela.
That's not money. That's a barter system. A barter system. If I have a car and I want to sell it to my next door neighbor, he has a truck because I need a truck. He needs a car. Then we switch up. And if he got a car that's 5 years old, I got a car that's 8 years old. We find out what the value of it is, and I might have to give him some extra stuff or some dollars on top of that. That's what the barter system is.
Venezuela. No currency involved, direct barter. This circumvented sanctions entirely. They created bilateral payment systems with Iran, Cuba, and Nicaragua. These countries all faced USA sanctions. They built clearing mechanisms to trade with each other without using dollars. Venezuela traded oil for Iranian gasoline and chemicals. The value was approximately $2 billion per year. They launched the Petro, a cryptocurrency supposedly backed by Venezuelan oil reserves. The Petro was an attempt to create a digital currency that could be used for international trade without touching the dollar system. It failed to gain significant adoption, but it showed the direction Venezuela was moving. They negotiated debt repayments to China in oil, not dollars. Venezuela owed China approximately $20 billion from infrastructure loans made during the Chavez era. Instead of repaying in dollars, Venezuela repaid in oil shipments. This was oil for debt, not oil for dollars. Add it all up. By 2025, Venezuela was selling approximately 900,000 barrels per day in non-dollar currencies and barter arrangements. At $75 per barrel, that is $24.7 billion in annual oil sales that were not using the US dollar. For a country with the world's largest oil reserves, this was unacceptable to the United States. But Venezuela was not alone. They were part of a broader trend. Russia was selling 5 million barrels per day in non-dollar currencies. Iran was selling 1.5 million barrels per day in yuan and euros. Saudi Arabia was negotiating with China to accept yuan for portions of oil sales. The petrodollar was not just losing...
They're disrespecting the U.S. They're saying we ain't giving you shit. They said we lose money. We got to tax. This is what the Roman... This is called feudalism. And I've been talking about that. This is the definition of feudalism. Which the word feudal comes from the word fees, which is the tax. This is what the Romans did. When they took over the dark nations and the other nations around them, they said, we're not going to mess with you, but anything you produce, we're going to get a percentage out of that. You know?
Venezuela. It was losing its grip on the entire global oil market. By late 2025, an estimated 15% of global oil trade was occurring in non-dollar currencies. That is approximately $410 billion per year out of $2.74 trillion in total global oil sales. The trend was accelerating. Projections suggested this could reach 25 to 30% by 2027. And then, on December 28, 2025, China and Venezuela announced a new agreement, $80 billion over 5 years. China would rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure. In exchange, Venezuela would supply 1.2 million barrels per day to China, all transactions in yuan. This was the breaking point, because this deal was not just about oil sales, it was about infrastructure. China was investing in Venezuela's long-term production capacity. They were building refineries, pipelines, ports. They were integrating Venezuela.
So you could look at this video and see what it's really all about. You know what I'm saying? Let's get Habakkuk.
Habakkuk 2, if he goes to Habakkuk 2.
We gotta roll out, but
Habakkuk 2, there it is. There it is. I went into some of it, but there you go. There you go. This is the reason why this whole thing happened. The fiasco took place last week. Anyway, Shalom, on to the next.
let's see here.